Well, I'm not right on the dot, but it's still 7:30, I believe, and it's time for Bible study, and I am R.K. Brown. I'm glad to be with you. We didn't have church today because of the winter storm. We've got a lot of elderly people in our congregation, and, they don't need to be driving in this weather, and they don't need to be slipping on wet ground or ice or things like that. I mean, nobody does, but especially older people. You know what I'm saying. But I am a member of Fatherland Baptist Church in Madison, Tennessee. Y'all come visit us. And I'm all hopped up. I'm all hopped up on coffee, and I am ready to teach. When I was a kid, I grew up in Atlanta, and back then Atlanta was kind of like Nashville is now. Still a lot of country people around there, and people like my stepfather would talk about some hippie, and they'd say, "Oh, that boy's all hopped up on dope." Well, I'm all hopped up on coffee, and I'm ready to teach, so let's get into this thing. The name of the lesson is Children, Obey Your Parents. Now, you're probably saying right now, "RK, why are you teaching that?" Well, check this out. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So let me deal with that first part there real quick. He says, children, obey your parents in the Lord. So this is just not talking about little kids, because children have to obey their parents whether they're in the Lord or not, whether they're heathens or atheists or pagans or whatever. Children have to obey their parents. So the Apostle Paul is not saying, well, y'all kids, if you got believing parents, obey them. But if your parents don't believe, forget about all that. No, that's not what he's saying. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. That means that we are supposed to obey our parents. So obviously, I'm a man, so it's a little different for a male than for a female. For instance, it's really right for a woman to live under her father's roof if she's not married. And even in the Old Testament, if a woman got divorced for whatever reason, she went back and lived under her father's roof. So it's kind of different for males and females, because Jesus said, in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, that the husband is head over the wife, or how did he say it? That Christ is head over the man, and the man is head over, the husband is head over the wife. So, I'm going somewhere with this. Children, obey your parents because it's right in the Lord, but obey your parents in the Lord. So it's not just talking about children, but he also says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Now, admonition kind of means like a cautious reminder, or, maybe a slight rebuke or whatever. But nurture, we usually think of women as being nurturers, right? A woman gives birth to a child, and she breastfeeds a child, and she just nurtures that child. And a normal woman does this. Now, there are women out there, obviously, who could walk away from their children, but a normal woman does this. But the Apostle Paul is saying, which of course he's not saying anything that Jesus wouldn't or didn't say. Fathers, bring up your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Obviously guide them, cautiously warn them. Sometimes you got to take the belt to them. The Old Testament says the man that spares the rod hates his son. So you want to be loving your children, and sometimes you got to love them with a little tough love. But for the most part, he's saying don't provoke your children to wrath. You better be careful about how you raise your children, fathers. You better, especially you Christian fathers, because you have the ability to turn your children into reprobates. A reprobate, if you read in Romans chapter 1 and Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 30, Jesus Christ died for everybody's sin. plus or minus none. He died for the sins of the whole world. But sometimes when people reject God, he rejects them. And as it says, like in John chapter 12, verse 39, therefore they could not believe. Though Jesus had done so many miracles among them, they couldn't believe, because Isaiah said that God had given them eyes that they should not see and ears that they should not hear, right? So they were given over to a reprobate mind. They were rejected. Reprobate means rejected. And you fathers, you Christian fathers, if you're not careful, you have the ability to turn your children into reprobates. You have the potential, the ability, if you're not careful. Like you hear about PKs all the time, preachers' kids. I talked to one not too long ago who plays in a very famous band that I was out on the road that we were touring with, or did a few arenas with. And this guy had a father who was a pastor, and this guy's older than I am. I'm 59, and I think this guy's older than me. And he was saying, yeah, the jury's still out on Jesus. It appears to me that guy was given over to a reprobate mind because he had a father that was a pastor, and yet he rejected the gospel, essentially. I mean, I could tell he wanted to get out of the conversation. He rejected the gospel. It's very possible that he was given over to a reprobate mind because his father probably provoked him to wrath. His father probably embittered him in some way toward the scriptures. So you better be careful how you raise your children, fathers. I can't stress this enough. I'm not saying not to spank your children when they need it, but you better be careful how you go about raising your kids. You better raise them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Okay? So children, obey your parents in the Lord. So we're not just talking about little kids here because, like I said, little kids have to obey their parents always. And fathers, don't provoke your children to wrath. Now I'm going to read you a story in the book of Jeremiah. Then I'm going to talk about Jesus' words. I've got two great truths to share with you. And maybe this last thing that I just shared with you was another one. So maybe three great truths to share with you. And here we go. Jeremiah 35, verse 1. The word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord in the days of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, saying, Go unto the house of the Rechabites, and speak unto them, and bring them into the house of the Lord, into one of the chambers, and give them wine to drink. Then I took Jaazaniah, the son of Jeremiah, the son of Habazaniah, and his brethren, and all his sons, and the whole house of the Rechabites. Now remember that I said all those names, right? I'm going to go back and read them to you again. It's important. Then I took Jaazaniah, the son of Jeremiah, the son of Habazaniah, and his brethren. So the Apostle Paul has already named 3 generations because he took Jaazaniah, the son of Jerechiah, the son of Baazaniah, or however that name is, Habazaniah. So it's 3 generations of people, including the one he's talking to. This is important, and I'll show you why in a minute. Just remember I said that. And I brought them into the house of the Lord, into the chamber of the sons of Hanan, the son of Igdaliah, a man of God, which was by the chamber of the princes, which was above the chamber of Maaseiah, the son of Shallum, the keeper of the door. And I set before the sons of the house of the Rechabites pots full of wine and cups, and I said unto them, Drink ye wine. So he's offering them strong drink. He's tempting them. Let's see what happens. And of course, God knew what he was doing when he did this. God knew this was going to happen. So he's using this for a way for Jeremiah to prophesy. And I'll show you what I mean. But they said, We will drink no wine. For Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, commanded us, saying, Ye shall drink no wine, neither ye, or You shall drink no wine, neither ye nor your sons forever. So now he's saying that Jonadab commanded them. So we don't know how many generations away that Jonadab was, but he was the son of Rechab, their father. And then Jonadab could have very possibly been the son of Jaazaniah, who was the son of Jeremiah, who was the son of Habazaniah. Right? So we're talking at least 4 generations now, possibly more, but at least 4 generations now. And they're following the commandment of this guy who was several generations away. He's offering them counsel. They're obeying their father. They're obeying their father in the Lord. You see where I'm going with this? But they said, we will drink no wine, for Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, commanded us. So they're obeying the voice of somebody that was generations away because he offered up wisdom, and they followed that wisdom. Neither shall you build houses, nor sow seed, nor plant vineyard, nor have any. But all your days you shall dwell in tents, that ye may live many days in the land where ye be strangers. Now I'm beginning to unfold another great truth here, but I'm going to show you as we go along. They're strangers, which means they're not Hebrews. They're Gentiles that have come into the land of Israel. Obviously, they've been circumcised and they're following the law. And it's the same law to the Hebrew as it is to the stranger once they've, done all those things and adopted the law. But they're strangers. They're not Hebrews. This is important. Thus have we obeyed the voice of Jonadab, the son of Rechab, our father, and all that he hath charged us to drink no wine all our days, we, our wives, our sons, nor our daughters, nor to build houses for to dwell in, neither have we vineyard, nor field, nor seed. So they are obeying the voice of Jonadab. But we have dwelt in tents, and have obeyed and done according to all that Jonadab our father commanded us. But it came to pass, when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up into the land, that we said, come, let us go to Jerusalem, for fear of the army of the Chaldeans and for fear of the army of the Syrians. So we dwelt at Jerusalem. Now, they were probably in Jerusalem when the takeover happened, when Nebuchadnezzar came in and took it over. We don't know what happened to him, but we know that the family was not wiped out. And we'll see at the end of the lesson why that is. But, they probably went through some tough times. They could have been among the poor that were left in the land when Nebuchadnezzar took all the people, or they could have been taken into captivity. We don't know about that. But we know that they were blessed. But first, then came the word of the Lord unto Jeremiah, saying, or a few moments later, verse 13, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. Now Jeremiah's prophesying now. Go and tell the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, will ye not receive instruction to hearken to my words, saith the Lord? The words of Jonadab, the son of Rechab, that he commanded his sons not to drink wine, are performed unto this day. They drink none, but obey their father's commandment. Notwithstanding, I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but ye hearkened not unto me. So he's saying there that the sons of, or the Rechabites, the sons of Rechab, obeyed Jonadab, who was the son of Rechab, or their father, a few generations before. But y'all haven't obeyed me. I'm supposed to be your father. I'm supposed to be God, your father. But you haven't obeyed me. These unbelieving, well, not unbelieving, but these Gentiles, these not supposed to be in the family of God, Gentiles, have obeyed me. We saw Jesus many times say, like when the woman came to Jesus and said, please heal my daughter, and Jesus just ignored her. And she just kept saying it. And he said, it's not right to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs. And she said, yeah, but Lord, the dogs, eat the crumbs that fall from the children's plate, if you will. And Jesus he marveled and said, I've not seen so great a faith. No, not in Israel. So these Gentiles have hearkened unto the voice of their father, but y'all Israelites haven't hearkened unto my voice, God, your Father. Verse 15, I have sent also unto you all my servants, the prophets, rising up early and sending them, saying, return ye now every man from his evil way, and amend your doings, and go not after other gods, to serve them, and ye shall dwell in the land which I have given to you and to your fathers, but ye have not inclined your ear, nor hearkened unto me. Because the sons of Jonadab, the son of Rechab, have performed the commandment of their father, which he commanded them, but this people hath not hearkened unto me, and I might say, your father. Or at least it's supposed to be that way. That's what you claim of me. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will bring upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil that I have pronounced against them, because I have spoken unto them, but they have not heard, and I have not called unto them, but they have not answered. Let me read that last part again. But they have not heard, and I have called unto them, but they have not answered. I thought I read that wrong. I was thinking, what did I read that wrong. So Jeremiah used the example of offering wine to the Rechabites so that he could show the children of Israel that these Gentiles, these strangers, as Jaazaniah called them, that these strangers have hearkened unto the voice of their father. They've listened to the commandment of their father, Jonadab, who was 3 generations earlier than Jaazaniah. But y'all haven't listened to me, and I'm supposed to be your father, God. That's what he's saying. And so he's going to bless those Gentiles. He's going to bless those sons of he's going to bless the Rechabites. But I take you now to the words of Jesus. This happened a lot in Israel, that the Gentiles got the blessing because the Jews, or the Hebrews, if you will, were disobedient, just continually disobedient. And so oftentimes Gentiles got the lesson. Now in Luke chapter 4, Jesus is driven out into the desert to be tempted of the devil, and then when he comes back in, he preaches in some synagogues, and he goes to Nazareth, and while he's in the synagogue, they pass around the scroll, and he takes up the scroll and he reads out of the book of Isaiah and says, the Lord has sent me to free the prisoners from the prison house and to bind up the brokenhearted and heal the sick and all that kind of stuff. And then Jesus puts down the scroll and he says, today this is fulfilled in your hearing. And then he says, you will no doubt say unto me, physician, heal thyself. But a prophet is not accepted in his own town. And then he starts telling them this. Jesus says in Luke 4:25, but I tell you of a truth, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elias, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, when great famine was throughout all the land. But unto none of them was Elias, that's Elijah, sent, save unto Sarepta, a city of Sidon, unto a woman that was a widow, a Gentile woman. So Jesus was saying that there was all these poor widows in Israel But Elijah wasn't sent to any of them. He went to a Gentile widow instead in the city of Zidon, or Sidon as it's called in the New Testament. And then we see this, a story I read about a few weeks ago. And many lepers were in Israel in the time of Elias or Eliseus or Elisha, the prophet. It's called Elias or Eliseus here in the New Testament, but that's a Greek spelling, but the Hebrew spelling was Elisha. Eliseus the prophet, and none of them was cleansed, saving Naaman the Syrian. So there were all these lepers in Israel, but a Gentile got healed of his leprosy when there was all these other lepers in Israel that didn't get healed because they were wicked. They were turned away from the Lord. They were following after other gods. And Jeremiah is making a point to the children of Israel that these strangers, these Gentiles, have obeyed the voice of their father. They have taken sound counsel of their father, and they're going to be blessed because of it. Remember I told you right at the beginning of the lesson that the Apostle Paul said, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for it is right. Honor thy father and thy mother, which is the first commandment with promise, that it may be well with thee and thou mayest live long on the earth. So there's a blessing to obeying your father and mother. And I'm not just talking about your direct father and mother, because he said, children, obey your parents in the Lord. So not only is he talking to adults, but we see this story in the book of Jeremiah that he's talking about even a couple of generations down. When there's wise counsel handed down from an elder of your family, you need to take heed to it. And so here's what happened. And Jeremiah said unto the house of the Rechabites, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, because ye have obeyed the commandment of Jonadab your father, and kept all his precepts, and done according unto all that he hath commanded you. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Jonadab, the son of Rechab, shall not want a man to stand before me forever. There's going to be somebody in their generations that are going to be saved all throughout time. There are people now that are descendants of that family, that direct family, that have that bloodline in them, that are saved, that believe on Jesus Christ. And if Jesus tarries and we have more generations to come, there are going to be more of them. Every generation forever will have a believer because of that obedience that these men took heed to, followed sound counsel of Jonadab, their father, a few generations before, and they're blessed forever because they did it. On the other hand, like I said earlier, like the scripture says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. If you provoke your children to wrath, you might turn them into a reprobate. You may cause them to hate everything about church, about Jesus, because I say, my father was a jerk. I hated the way my father dealt with us. Now, obviously, children, your parents are commanded in the scriptures to chastise you when you go astray. The Bible tells us that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod will drive it far from him. So I'm not saying that your parents shouldn't spank you and chastise you, but I'm saying to the parents, to the fathers particularly, you better be careful how you go about it. Because if you're not careful, you have the ability to turn your children into reprobates. And if somebody's giving you wise counsel, somebody from a generation before you is giving you wise counsel about how to raise your children, and you know that this person has done a good job raising their children, follow that wise counsel. That's what I'm telling you. Because we saw what happened to the Rechabites, that they were blessed because they followed the counsel of their father, Jonadab. But yet, if you fathers provoke your children to wrath, you might, I believe it says in Colossians chapter 3 maybe? Chapter 1, chapter 3, I can't remember. Anyway, he says, fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they be discouraged. You don't want them to be discouraged and grow up and hate everything about church. You hear in the churches, you hear the term PK all the time, which means preacher's kid. And they are always wayward because the preacher is not spending the time that he should be taking care of his children, raising his children. He's devoted his whole self to the church and not taking care of his family. You have to be able to do both. That's why the Apostle Paul, when he said, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desires a good work. A bishop, therefore, must be the husband of one wife, not given to strong drink, must have his children in all subjection, right? He has to have obedient children. And he has to be married. He has to be the husband of one wife and have children, not just child, but children, because if he can't run his own house, how can he run the house of God? So if preachers' kids are wayward, it's because the preacher didn't do it right. And he's disqualified from being a preacher. He's disqualified from being not a preacher, but he's disqualified from being a pastor, a bishop. So you better do it right. And if somebody from an older generation is counseling you and you know that they've done a good job, you better take heed to them, just like these Rechabites. Jezaniah, the son of Jeremiah, the son of, what's that? I'm just trying to remember that name. What's his name? Hebazaniah. You better take heed to that person. That's all I'm saying. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. And that's not just necessarily your direct parents. Could be your direct parents as an adult, but it could be even somebody down the generations. I know this is kind of a crazy lesson, but that's it. That's my lesson for tonight. Hopefully it was short enough where you didn't get too bored. I hope you got something out of it. I'm just not a great speaker. I'm kind of all over the place. It's just kind of my nature. I wasn't given the ability to be a great speaker like some people are. And also I'm visually impaired, so I don't put notes up. You know what I'm saying? I just do it out of my head because I can't. I've showed y'all before that I use this to read the scripture, so I'm actually doing this, looking at my screen. So I don't have notes in front of me and all that stuff because I don't want to put my notes up on the screen. So I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. But hopefully the Lord will bless it. I believe he does. I believe he will. I believe somebody will get something out of this. And so that's my lesson. If you're watching by Facebook and or YouTube, then do as the kids say and smash the like button. Bible Study with R.K. Brown on YouTube. Bible Study with R.K. Brown on BitChute. Bible Study with R.K. Brown on Gab TV. R.K. Shades on Rumble and on regular Gab. All right? Y'all watch next week. Lord willing, I'll be here with another lesson. And until then, may the Lord richly bless you. Good night.